Hey, welcome to the Lockdown Sessions, presented to you by Wrestling Travel and our good friends over at True Heel Heat podcast. Check them out. They do a great job. Today, we are very honored to have with us Ricardo Rodriguez, Jesus Rodriguez. Hey, how are you doing today?
Greetings, good morning, good afternoon, salutations, buenas tardes, buenos dias, whichever language we decide to do this in. I just want to say hello to everybody that's out there watching. So, hi.
Hey, first time we're doing lockdown sessions in covering a second language, so some brand new territory for us. So what we do here, and I know you're familiar with Wrestling Travel, I know you're familiar with the show, but to everybody watching, we just like to catch up with what everybody's been up to in this crazy times that we're living in. But we're gonna back it way up. For those of us that don't know, Ricardo, how long have you been in the business?
Coincidentally, I just turned 14 in this world of wrestling. I think it was today or sometime this week. I never remember the actual date that I started officially in pro wrestling, as a wrestler. And then come August 13th, Ricardo will be 10 years old. So it's a total of 14 years, man, in this crazy world of wrestling.
Wow! So happy anniversary!
Yeah.
Happy anniversary to Ricardo coming up. What a fantastic. So what drew you in? Like when you were younger, what drew you into the world of pro wrestling?
Well, I started in 2006, and then I started in straight lucha libre first under the name of Chimera here in Southern California, in Los Angeles. So I learned lucha libre first, the Mexican style first, before switching over to the American side, and then learning the American style, and then branching out to the American circuit. And I did straight lucha for a good year or so, almost 2 years, roughly, year and a half. My trainer would take us down, like got us hooked up all over Southern California, the lucha libre circuit. I got connected with Mexico, so I did several shows in Mexico, straight lucha, and then eventually I ended up meeting at PWG, who also just celebrated their birthday as well yesterday. I met Los Luchas, Phoenix Star and Zocre, alongside their partner as well, Nemesis. And then they helped me transition from the Lucha Libre side to the American style, which kind of helped out because they were hybrid in Lucha and American. So it was easy for them to teach me how to transition from straight Lucha to the American style or the American train of thought. And then from there, I grew up with the same guys as you see now on TV. Your TJ Perkins, Scorpio Sky, the Young Bucks, Mia Yim. We're all from this whole area. So it's pretty cool how eventually with time, a lot of us from here in Southern California branched out and we did our own thing.
Yeah, I forget who I was talking with, Nikita Koloff, about a month ago, and I'm thinking. And even TJP, when we talked to him, you're in a locker room with all these people not thinking anything of it. And to the wrestling fan, it's like, wow, all these future stars. And then that's got to be kind of a cool feeling when you look back, like, hey, we're all just trying to make it. And now look how many of you guys have bloomed and blossomed. So who are you?
And it's great. And honestly, right now, I mean, granted, there was a big hold that got put on the industry because of COVID, and not just in wrestling, but all over any kind of business or market or whatever. But wrestling was on this big bloom, on this big blossom, big explosion, and had exploded with so many talent coming from all over the place, especially from here, Southern California. And it's pretty cool that, well, for one, I started independence, so I got to meet a lot of people before WWE that now are finally getting this opportunity, whether it's with Impact or Ring of Honor or WWE, NXT, AEW. So for me, it's pretty cool to see all these guys that like you said, that I've shared a locker room with in the past at a VFW hall or a Boys and Girls Club, and then now they're doing, you know, national TV and international TV. So that's pretty cool.
Another thing that's got to be pretty cool when you attain the level that you did, to be able to now go back into those VFW locker rooms or wherever you're working and be able to go, hey, let me show you a few things. Let me give some advice. You're like somebody that they look up to. That's got to be a great feeling to be able to give back.
No, definitely, and then that's a big thing too, is giving back. I was lucky coming up that I have a lot of great people that they didn't owe me anything, but they would, you know, take time out of their schedules or out of their whatever, their day, to give me little pointers or give me little hints. And obviously back then, you know, one thinks like, I know everything. I don't need this old guy to tell me anything. And but looking back, like I would realize some of the stuff that they would tell me, even though sometimes it was very subtle, it would make sense along the way. And I would be in a match predicament, and I'd be like, oh, hey, I remember what X guy told me, you know, 5, 6 years ago. It applies here, and I would apply it, and it will work. Um, so now it's kind of cool that to be on that other side of the spectrum, to pass it on to somebody else, um, whether it makes sense to them now or not, or later. Eventually, hopefully, it'll click for them later on, if it's not now.
Right. Good friend of the show, Tyson Dukes, up in Canada, just started this week with his own YouTube channel, and he's got maybe 5 or 6 clips up there now, and they're very short, hammer locks, reversals, different little things that I said, man, so many of the little things get lost when you're training, or almost we kind of skip over that part, that he's kind of going back and filling in some gaps where a lot of people, I think, will get a chance to look at stuff like that and go, hey, while we're down and out during this COVID, I'm going to put this in my toolbox. I like that he's going over the little things.
Yeah.
When you,
You know, and something about that in particular too, how and this is again my opinion, that things are being skipped with wrestling now, and when it comes to that, like anybody can do, you know, like everybody can do like moonsaults and backflips and this and this and this and this. But for me, what stands out a lot when I watch guys or the girls too is what they do in between. The in between is going to separate people a lot more than a flip or like a cool move. Because to me, a move is just a move unless you give it some kind of a life. Uh, so like when I see people like working a headlock or working an arm ring or hammer lock, um, depending on how you build it and how you place it, it can make the move that you do later on a whole lot more. It can mean more, because you're giving it substance, you're giving it some kind of a life behind it, versus just, oh, hey, I'm going to do this because I can.
right, working a body part and all that stuff that, you know, as this sport evolves, and I know it's been around forever, but almost going back in some of the little things getting in there. So psychology, and as you watching it, the story makes sense. What I want to ask is, when you came out as Chimera, you wore a mask. Am I correct?
Yes. I did. I had a mask. I was a big fan of the Power Rangers, so I made my gear kind of resemble or based out of the Power Rangers. I was also a big fan of Abismo Negro, who was a big wrestling lucha libre star back in the day before he passed away. So I made like a mixture of the Power Rangers and Abismo Negro as my gear. But yeah.
Well, what I wanted to get to is, because I didn't grow up watching lucha, and obviously you're embedded down there in Southern California with your background. Was it a difficult thing to get rid of the mask for you?
Uh, at first, yeah, because if for the folks that know about the history of lucha libre, the mask is your persona. It's you. That's what you build, and that's your whole empire. That's your whole company. That's your whole name. It's your presence, your essence, you know. And then it's like and like when you lose it, it's kind of like when Samson lost his hair. Like you lose your. It seems like you lose your power. So at first, yeah, I mean, and then if you ask anybody who's been to WWE who had to drop a mask, man, they'll probably tell you something similar. Like at first, it's like you're leaving behind a legacy that you had built, only to drop it just like that. Um, which is something that you don't get at the time. You don't understand it at the time until later on. You kind of get a better understanding of why. Um, so yeah, it was difficult at first, but I mean, once I got the gig and kind of saw how it was working and what it did and what we were doing, you kind of like go, okay, well, it was kind of worth it.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Besides the history behind lucha, but the fact that you've built yourself up with this mask for so long, and now it's like, okay, hey, let's start over. Almost like that, probably that
exactly. Yeah,
feeling that you might have, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go.
yeah.
Um, the how did they come about then? Did you have a trial with WWE, or did they tap you on the shoulder, or how
No,
did that all come about?
yeah, I had a wrestling tryout with WWE in 2010. It was the day after SummerSlam. We were at the we're at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, and we got there probably like around 9 or 10 in the morning. We had a tryout for like maybe like 3 hours, 3 4 hours or so. Um, and then and I've done this. I've answered this question many times, and I feel like a broken record.
All right.
But eventually, what they did was they had confronted somebody else about this ring announcing gimmick, but he, for whatever reason, said he couldn't make it the next day on SmackDown. So the guy who got me the tryout, his name is Jesse Hernandez, who's a big promoter down here in Southern California. um, he suggested myself. And sure enough, the next day I go to Bakersfield, California, and for SmackDown, and I did the whole ring announcing deal. They enjoyed it. They asked me back the next day for a second taping of SmackDown on a Wednesday in Fresno. And eventually, they offered myself, this guy named Alex Kozlov, and Rusev a contract right there after that day.
That's awesome. Had you done any ring announcing prior to that?
Oh no.
Hell no, no. I mean, that was awesome.
No, and what's funny is like at the time, my Chimera character, I was a big fan, just like anybody else, of like Muda. I was such a big fan of Muda, and he didn't talk. I was a big fan of Super Dragon. He didn't talk. I was a big fan of Loki, of his work style, of how he did stuff, and they didn't talk. So like I tried to mimic a lot of what they did, at least the style, the presence. So I didn't cut promos. I didn't talk. And the ironic part was that I did not get hired to wrestle. I got hired to talk. Uh, so I guess the best thing was like you fake it till you make it type of thing.
Right.
And, and sure enough, it kind of worked out, thankfully.
Now, I know that you obviously wrestled some with the WWE. What was that? What's that feel like when you're? I kind of get it now with wrestling travel, where I get to go to some shows and I'm not bumping in the ring or anything, but
Mhm.
I'm old. I like it. Well, how was that for you? Like, hey, I might be going out on SmackDown, but I'm just doing the ring announcer role, and that's it. Was that a tough mental transition for you?
Well, at first it was hard not being able to wrestle because I got to see everybody else wrestle. And I mean, at this point I had been wrestling for 4 years, like nonstop internationally, obviously all over the states. And all of a sudden I'm being told that I'm not wrestling and I'm just gonna go out and ring announce. And don't get me wrong, I was thankful and I was grateful for the opportunity, but I wanted to wrestle. So to not wrestle and see everybody else having fun, I missed it. But eventually, with time, they let me start wrestling under their mask, obviously under a different name. But they would use me to help bring up the guys from NXT or FCW at the time that were on the house shows or the dark matches. Um, where every now and then, or a lot actually, they would use me down at NXT. Once they turned into NXT, they would use me down there to give like the first or second match to the whoever they had just signed. Like I wrestled Kalisto for his very first match that wasn't televised on NXT at Full Sail. Uh, I oh man, I wrestled Sami Zayn. I wrestled so many guys on like to just to showcase them.
Yeah.
And I mean if back then again different mentality than now. back then I was a little upset because I wanted to, I wanted something as well. But when I look back at it now, many years later, I appreciate that they trusted me enough to be in that position to say, hey, this guy can make, X guy look good. Like when Roman Reigns was first starting out, like they would put him with myself a lot. Would put him with like Johnny Curtis, Fandango. They would put him with like Mark Guitar, a bunch of guys that they trusted that can help out, Roman, showcase the stuff. So they will use us a lot for that. And like I said, like I feel thankful that they trusted me enough back then that I could make them look good. Like on the tours, sometimes on the European tours, sometimes I would do the match with like Sin Cara or Truth or X, whatever. And then like a couple matches pass, and then here I come out again as Ricardo for Alberto and who's ever match it is. So I would do double duty. But it was cool, like I said, that they trusted me enough to do that, to protect the guys or whatever. Or if there was a guy that was coming back from like an injury, but they still wanted him to go out, they would put him with myself or like Heath Slater or TJ Wilson or Chavo or Regal or Goldust. We were those guys. So it's kind of cool to be on that list, though, that they trusted us for that.
Yeah, 100%. You might not see it at the time, but like you said, looking back, that trust level. Now, wrestling travel, we bring fans from around the world. Well, we did up until this crisis, but from around the world to their favorite, whether it be a WrestleMania, Wrestle Kingdom. Where has this crazy sport of pro wrestling taken you? What are some of the, and I'm not asking you like who's your favorite child, but what are some of the cities that come to mind that you got to see, like the great places? What are some great cities you got to visit via this world?
Well, growing up I mean, my parents were immigrants from Mexico. Like we didn't have your luxuries that a lot of families had. So for me to get out of, the neighborhood, as they would say, was awesome in itself. To be able to travel through this, because to me it's a sport, to be able to travel through this sport globally, all over Europe, all over the Americas, Asia. Like I lived in India because of wrestling. I started wrestling again in India. That to me is an awesome experience, and something that because of wrestling, it was all a possibility. And then just having to meet or getting to meet so many amazing people along the way, friends, whether good or bad people, but still they were learning experiences. As the way I see it, is the learning experiences, and it's all because of wrestling. And then like we all hear it whenever, and I still get it now every now and then when I meet people and they're like, hey, what do you do? And they're like, and I'm like, oh, I do wrestling, pro wrestling. They're like, oh, that fake stuff. And I was like, well, I mean, my concussions are real.
Yeah.
But my life experiences have been real for the last 14 years. If it wasn't for this quote unquote fake sport, I wouldn't have traveled globally. Being in Australia, being in India, being in Canada, Mexico, Puerto Rico, England, France, Italy, Germany, Belgium, Holland, etc. And it's all been because of this sport. So that's pretty cool to me.
What I've discovered during this, we started this right after WrestleMania. We did a virtual pub crawl. Don't ask me how it worked, but I said it will help out. We were going to do the regular pub crawl for Connor's Cure in Tampa. And we had a YouTube channel sitting here, and I thought, hey, let me use this to help the guys maybe sell a T-shirt or sell their brand to sell a ticket afterwards. Now, you talk about, and I have the same thing, when you bring up pro wrestling to your average person, they kind of look down their nose. But I tell you what, pro wrestling, and especially pro wrestling fans, are the biggest supporters and givers. We raised $3,300 in 2 days for the Red Cross when you didn't know when your next dollar was coming from. But the pro wrestling community is one of the greatest things, and I think we see it now without the fans.
Yeah.
On some of these matches, I mean, you're losing a lot. Even me I'm a fan first and foremost. I always was, I always will be. But it's tough to watch without that crowd interaction.
No, it definitely is, and there's a lot of people that are suffering, because of this. Whether it's the performers or the crew, the promoters, everybody within the business is hurting. Um, Not just the in-ring performers, everybody, because it's even though it is a community, and sometimes we hate each other and we will try to stab each other down, like whatever. When somebody is in help, though, and it's very freaking cool how the community comes together for somebody, whether it's like because of an illness or somebody. I know somebody just had like a car accident, and like the community came together and helped that person out, get a new car. Um, so it's pretty cool how strong you can be, despite how dysfunctional we are.
Right. Exactly. What do you real quick, the cinematic matches? Have you got a chance to take a look
I've
at some
only
of the?
I've only seen the Undertaker one with AJ. That's the
Okay.
only one that I've seen. Yeah. That's the only one that I've seen.
Right. Okay. Cool. And then it's kind of a new concept. I wasn't gonna
Mm,
like it, but I thought, well, hey, it's better than how we were without basketball and baseball and stuff. At
yeah.
least we had something going on. Uh, what I wanted to ask you next, as I do my dramatic pause because I'm not a journalist, is what did you now? What have you been doing during? I would say since end of February, March, since we've
End of
been in this
February.
pandemic. What have you been
Um,
doing to stay sane, to stay close to wrestling? What are some?
Man, I'll be honest with you, man. Like when the quarantine first started, I was going crazy. It was horrible, and uh, the demons were coming into your head, and it was bad. It was bad, but eventually, I mean, for those that follow me, like, no, I'm a big soccer fan. So like, there was no soccer on TV, there was no wrestling, there was no sports, and um, like that drove me nuts. But I found eventually the park. I would go to the park, and for the last uh, 3 months already, that's all I've been doing. Just that's been my workouts, just going to the park and then just going early in the morning, before it gets super hot because we're in the summer, getting super hot, and I was going like run the field and just kick the ball around for like 2 hours, get tired, and come home and just watch a movie or just study tapes or draw or something. But that was my biggest thing. And then also, I mean, I know a lot of other people that had similar issues with the quarantine. At first was the alcohol. That was horrible, man, at first. Uh, but I mean, that doesn't lead anywhere positive. So I'm gonna be 3 months without alcohol now. It's gonna be 90 days in 3 days. So trying to turn trying to turn the life around. Um, but yeah, just been keeping busy with just trying to self with the health self ah, the mental health stuff, trying
Right.
to not think about the fact that we don't have something when we still do, so appreciate what we have, even though it's little and minimal. We still have something, whether it's our friendship or families. Wrestling right now, and there's a lot of people that crap on what's going on, which is ridiculous, because okay, fine, if they take it away because of this whole thing, people are going to complain again how dysfunctional the wrestling community is. So we should just be thankful that we have something to watch. And then for like I was saying earlier, how right now I have so many friends from here in Southern California that are on TV right now, so I support them full on. I have friends that have like shirt sales, so I'll buy their shirt. Um, and even if it's like $20, whatever, like it's still something that like I'm helping out with. Um, so it's just trying to keep busy. That's the important thing. Just trying to keep busy somehow. And just we gotta hype up the boys and girls.
Absolutely. Stay busy and turn the news off once in a while. Holy cow.
Yeah, sure.
So I want to be very respectful of your time. So a couple more questions. My one question I have to ask, since we're based out of the United Kingdom,
Hmm.
and you've been over there, whether it's ring announcing, wrestling, refereeing, the crowds over there versus the crowds in the state. I always get
Very
excited
different.
when they have a big show over there because the soccer chants and everything that they
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah.
Well, what is it like, the difference, if you from being in the ring, the fan difference there?
The last time I was in England, I was there for 3 months. I was doing the summer camps with the Knight family. So that was a cool experience as well. And that's something that I truly believe every wrestler should experience at one point in their careers, because the camps are awesome. They're a whole different animal, but they're fun. But for sure, like to me, every see like Mexico is different from the UK. They're both rowdy as hell. But the UK crowd, the European crowd, is always singing. They're always chanting. The Mexican crowd, they're always rowdy and just loud and cussing and this and that and whatever. The US crowd fluctuates, and obviously you have your Japanese crowd that's very respectful, which seems to be something that we don't know what respect is here in the States. Um, but but no, like I love the European crowd, man. Anything England, I love being over there. They were chanting. I remember the first time that I went to actually wrestle. I got the who are you? I got that chant the first time I went, and by the end of it, they were cheering. Um, but I appreciated everything that the crowd does. Even though they'll like talk trash while you're in the ring, they'll meet you afterwards and they'll give you props, or they'll come and say hi, and they'll cheers. Um, so I loved it, and I wish I can go back. So hopefully once this whole thing finishes and we're done, if the U.S. ever gets their shit together, sorry.
Oh, you're
If we
good.
ever get our stuff, if we ever get our stuff together, I would love to go back to England. If they ever let Americans out of this country,
Yeah, that's
into
the
other
thing.
countries, because we're so ass backwards right now.
Crazy. It is crazy. But yeah, when everything gets back to normal, yeah, we'd love to have you over. Um, I say that on behalf of my brothers that work over there. So final question, the most
Uh-huh.
important question I want to ask you is, the fans that watch this from around the world may see this interview. Where can they keep up with what you're doing? Where can they maybe buy any merch, any shirts? What do you have for social media for us fans to give a follow to?
Well, much like a lot of people right now, there's not much of anything going on. But I'm trying to stay active on my social media, whether it's on Twitter, which is at RRWWE, my Instagram, which is the letter J underscore Rodriguez 818. My Snapchat, I don't go on there very often, but I still have it. So every now and then I'll put something up, which is also RRWWE. And then my pro wrestling T-shirt at Jesus Rodriguez. Still got a lot of shirts out there, which I don't know if they ship to UK.
They do, but it takes I think they got to pay $9 extra, and they have to give it 30 days, and probably even more during the pandemic. So
right. But
they do
it's still
ship.
up there. Yeah, it's still up there. And then I got some stuff coming up soon, merch wise. But once we finalize on the stuff, like little bobbleheads and stuff, that should be coming up soon. I'll definitely be posting those on social media, on Instagram and Twitter.
Very cool. Do you still do anything with the Chimera gimmick? Do you sell any T-shirts with that, or is that
Yeah. Every now
cool.
and then, I'm actually at the moment making Chimera masks. Like not the masks, but these masks.
Oh, good idea.
I'm making those, so that's part of the merch that we're finalizing. So once that's finally done and I get my shipment, I'll be posting them on social media as well.
Very cool. Well, hey, we look forward to it. We can't thank you enough for spending time with us today, and appreciate for full disclosure. We kind of set this up maybe just a couple hours ago, and you were very gracious to get back on with us. So we appreciate it at Wrestling Travel, and we support everything you're doing. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.